In this video, I want to show you some techniques that will help you be able to create diagrams quickly and easily in Google Slides. One of the drawbacks that people find when they're wanting to use visuals is they say, oh, well, it takes too much time to draw a diagram. I'll just use a bullet point list of text instead. Well, in fact, once you learn these techniques for drawing diagrams, it becomes easy. So we're going to talk about a number of these techniques illustrated on this particular slide. Let's go to a blank one so I can show you how this works. One of the challenges people find is drawing a perfectly straight line. And if you try to hold your hand really carefully to do that, it becomes hard. But in fact, it's not all that hard at all. So in my line tool, I'm just going to select my regular line. And then before I start drawing, I'm going to hold the Shift key down. And by holding the Shift key down, when I start to draw, you'll notice my cursor can be above or below, and that line is perfectly straight. In fact, it snaps to 15-degree increments all the way around the 360 degrees. So if I want a perfectly straight horizontal line, I just keep holding that Shift key down. Now you have to keep the Shift key down until you've finished drawing and then release the Shift key. Because if you release the Shift key early, what it does is it removes that restriction of the 15-degree increments. So that's how you get a perfectly straight line. The Shift key is also a really good technique to remember when you're drawing other types of shapes. So for example, if I use a rectangle shape and I want a perfect square, I hold that Shift key down before I start drawing. Then when I draw, notice it doesn't matter where the cursor is, it's always a perfect square. Similar with the oval tool. If you want to get a perfect circle, that oval tool, you just hold the Shift key down and it's a perfect circle. The Shift key is also good when you want to rotate an object. So for example, let's say this square, I want to rotate it. The rotation handle is at the top here. And instead of free rotating, what happens if I hold the Shift key down and I start to rotate, you notice that it goes in 15-degree increments. So if I know I need to rotate something 45 degrees, I just essentially go 3 clicks around and I know it's rotated exactly at that spot. So those are some good tips on drawing the different shapes exactly what you need them to be. And then when you're starting to put them together into some of the diagrams, we can use some of these ideas as well. So I'm going to draw a few rectangles here, and I'm going to draw this rectangle. And let's say I'm doing sort of a decision tree type diagram. So I've drawn my first rectangle. I want the others to be exactly the same size. Instead of your normal copy and paste, what you do instead is Control D. Control D is duplicate, and by the way, you can see that under the edit menu here. You see duplicate is Control D. So if you're working on a different platform than what I'm working on, Chrome on Windows 10, it will tell you what that shortcut key is there, just so you know where that is. Okay, so I've done Control D. Now I just drag it to approximately where I think it's going to be. Control D again, drag it. Now if I want these two lined up, they're not lined up right now. So instead of trying to do it by eyeball, what I can do is I can select both of these objects. And one of the easy ways to select multiple objects is to take your cursor and draw a rectangle around the objects you want to select. So the objects have to be completely inside that rectangle. I've selected both of those objects now. I can use the tools under Arrange. So under Arrange, I'm going to use the Align tool. So there are different alignments here. Aligning horizontally, there's 3 different options here: left, center, or right. In this case, I'm going to want left. There's vertically, top, middle, or bottom. In this case, I don't need those tools to align them because I want them separated the way that they are. If I wanted to align them to the left, I can do that. You also have some tools if you have more than 2. So if I duplicate again one of these, notice that there are some guides that come up that can be helpful if you can release the mouse button at exactly the right spot. But if I have 3 items, again my Arrange, Align horizontally, left, but now you'll notice I also have an option here called Distribute. So it allows you to select 3 or more objects and they distribute them equally in either a horizontal or vertical distance. In this case, maybe I want it vertically, and they're now equally spaced apart. So to draw the lines from our initial box to each of these 3, I want to have, what I showed you earlier, is this 3-part line. Instead of drawing 3 separate lines and trying to get them line up exactly, I'm going to use an elbow connector. One of the types of lines here is an elbow connector. When you use the elbow connector and you get close to any of the shapes, you notice those purple dots that come up on the middle of each side of the rectangle. If I attach the line there, which I'm going to do, and then move and attach it to that spot on the other rectangle, it is a special type of connection. And the reason that this connection is very helpful for you is for the following. So that line has been drawn, so it's a single line, which is good. Plus, if I ever take this shape and I move that shape, notice the line automatically adjusts. That's the value of connecting to those special spots on each side. And the elbow connector is what allows you to have 3 lines in one. The last thing I wanted to show you with the shapes here is how you animate shapes to build them one by one. The animation in Google Slides is under the slide and change transition. In the top half, you have slide transitions, which we don't really use all that much. And then it says you can add animation. So you need to select one of the objects on the slide first and then say add animation. You can discover the different types of effects. There are a few of them here. The default is fading in, on click, and then the speed. You can then select the next item. So if I select 2 of the items and then say add animation, again, the fade. So when I click on the play button here, it gives you a way to sort of preview this. So you press the enter button, you do the first one, and you notice how the red marker on the right side is moving down, and then the second one. So when I selected both of those items, it brings them on at the same time. So that's how you can animate or build your diagrams piece by piece, and that's how you can draw them. Within PowerPoint, when you graduate to a professional presentation program, you have a number of these same techniques that you can use. There's a few other types of shapes. There are different types of lines that you can also use, and the animation is more robust. There are a lot more types of effects that you can use.